Okay, so today we're really diving deep into something I think you're going to love. You know, you love spiritual transformation, right? And we're going to be focusing on surrender, which can be kind of a scary word for people.
Yeah.
But we're going to unpack it. We're going to look at a YouTube video that's been making the rounds called When You're Ready to Completely Shift and Surrender.
I love that video.
Yeah. And it's really interesting stuff. We're going to break it down and see what we can all learn from it.
Sounds good.
So what's really interesting about this guy is he doesn't like mess around. Like he gets right into it.
Yeah, he does.
He's like surrender to something bigger than yourself. And he uses all these different words like awareness and God and presence.
Yeah. He uses them all interchangeably, almost as if they're all pointing to the same thing.
Yeah, it's like he's tapping into this like thing in us that wants something more than just everyday life.
Totally, like a universal yearning.
Yeah.
To connect with something bigger.
But he's not super specific about what that thing is.
That's true. It's kind of left open-ended, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like an invitation to define it for yourself.
Yeah, like what resonates for you.
Exactly.
But he does give this really interesting analogy, I thought, to try to explain what he means by surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
He talks about the sun and its rays.
Right.
It's like this awareness or God or whatever you want to call it is like the sun and we are all like the rays.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Because it speaks to that interconnectedness.
Yes.
We're all part of this larger whole.
Yeah, we're all connected.
Like emanating from this one source.
Right, exactly. So it's not about like erasing who you are as a person.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that there's this bigger thing we're all a part of.
Exactly. Recognizing that connection.
Yeah.
And that leads to another point he makes, which is that surrender isn't a one-time thing. It's not like you just surrender once and you're done.
You're surrendered.
An ongoing process, right?
Okay.
It's a continual practice.
Well, you have to keep surrendering.
You're surrendering in each moment.
Wow.
Yeah, he even uses the phrase like giving your life to it throughout the day, not just during meditation or your spiritual practices or whatever.
So he's talking about surrendering like even mundane stuff.
Yeah, like your to-do list, your daily tasks, everything.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine like approaching your to-do list with a sense of surrender?
It's a trip, right? It's like, what would that even look like? To approach your to-do list from a place of surrender.
I don't even know. That's crazy.
It's a mind bender.
I mean, who hasn't felt that like need to just like control everything?
Oh, totally. The ego loves to be in control.
Yeah.
But he's suggesting that there's a different way. Like, what if there's a more peaceful way? What if letting go is actually the key?
Yeah, and it's not just about like, you know, feeling more peaceful inside, right?
Yeah.
He's saying like when you surrender, like things actually change in your life.
Yeah, he talks about how people will notice a difference in you. Like, you'll glow differently. People will be drawn to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like this inner transformation becomes outwardly visible.
Interesting.
Like,
so it's like people can see it.
That's what he suggests, yeah. Like there's a certain magnetism that comes with surrender.
Huh. I mean, it makes sense that if you're more at peace inside, people would pick up on that.
Totally. But I think it's important to be mindful of how we interpret that message. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it's easy to get caught up in that idea of like, oh, if I surrender perfectly, then everyone will love me and I'll get everything I want.
Right, like it's some kind of manipulation tactic.
Exactly. And that totally misses the point. True surrender isn't about achieving a specific outcome. It's about letting go of attachment to outcomes altogether.
So it's not about like getting stuff.
No, it's about being present with what is without needing to control it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like easier said than done.
Yeah, way easier.
Because our culture is constantly telling us to strive, to achieve.
Right, like more all the time.
Exactly. So this idea of surrender, it goes against the grain, you know?
It's like the opposite of everything we're told.
It is, which is what I find so fascinating about his message. He's challenging those deeply ingrained beliefs about how we're supposed to live our lives.
It's like a totally different way of being.
Right. It's about accepting rather than achieving.
And this whole idea of surrendering, like giving yourself over to something bigger than you, it's not exactly a new idea, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, think about it. It's a common theme in so many spiritual traditions.
It's like in every religion, right?
Totally. Like the concept of grace in Christianity, or letting go and letting God in 12-step programs.
Yeah. It's like he's reminding us of something we already knew deep down.
Exactly. It's tapping into that universal human desire to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
And even if you're not religious or spiritual, there's still something appealing about letting go of control, you know?
Absolutely. Especially in a world that feels so out of control.
It's like if you can't beat them, join them.
Kind of. It's more like finding peace within the chaos.
Yeah, like instead of trying to control everything, you just surrender to it.
Exactly. And that's where the real strength lies.
Because holding on so tight takes so much energy.
It's exhausting.
It really is.
And what he's offering is an alternative. It's not about escaping life's challenges. It's about facing them with more grace, more resilience.
I like that.
It's about finding that inner strength that allows you to weather the storm.
Yeah, to be like, okay, this is happening and I can handle it.
Exactly. And one thing about, he's not afraid to use strong language to get his point across.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, he says things like, God will drown you.
Whoa.
And let go of knowledge completely.
Okay, that's intense.
Right. It's like he's intentionally trying to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, he wants to get your attention.
Exactly. He wants to break through our preconceived notions about what surrender means.
Because it's not about being passive, right?
No, not at all. It's about surrendering to something much greater than our limited egos.
So it's like a death of the ego.
Exactly. It's dying to that belief that we're somehow separate from this universal consciousness.
Whoa. And he actually compares it to Jesus, right?
He does. He talks about how God was clearly flowing through Jesus.
Right.
We can all have that. That's what he suggests, yeah. If we're willing to fully surrender,
That's a big if.
it is a big if. It takes a lot of trust.
Trust in what, though?
Trust in something beyond what we can see or fully comprehend.
Okay, so like, how do you do that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's what we're going to explore when we come back after this break.
So, it makes you wonder, like, how do you actually do this surrender thing?
Yeah, it's like, okay, it sounds great, but how do you actually put it into practice in daily life?
Right, exactly. Well, luckily, it gives us some tools.
Yeah.
And it's not as hard as you might think. He talks a lot about the power of breath.
Yeah, breath is huge, right?
Yeah, it's like such a simple thing.
But so powerful. Like, just consciously connecting with your breath, feeling the rise and fall of your chest, it can really bring you into the present moment.
And he talks about feeling the breath in your heart.
Oh, yeah, he loves that.
Like your heart is breathing, which is kind of a weird thought, but
It's a beautiful image.
it is.
It's like tapping into the wisdom of the heart
yes.
rather than getting stuck in your head.
Totally. Because that's where it can get messy up here.
Oh, yeah. The mind is a wild place.
Right.
But the breath, it's like an anchor.
Okay.
It brings you back to center.
But he says, like, don't force it. Don't try to control the breath. Just surrender to it. So it's like surrender even within the surrender.
Yes. Surrender all the way down.
Wow. Okay.
It's a deep practice.
Yeah. And then it's like, how do you take that into everyday life? Like he was saying, even your to-do list. Like surrender to your to-do list.
That one's tough, right?
Yeah. How do you even do that?
I think it's about shifting your perspective.
Okay.
It's not about just giving up and doing nothing.
Right.
It's about approaching those tasks with a different energy.
So instead of feeling like you have to force things to happen, you're like trusting that it'll work out somehow.
Trusting that there's a bigger plan.
Even if you don't know what that plan is.
Exactly. And that's the leap of faith, right?
It is a big leap.
It is. But the rewards can be huge.
What do you think those rewards are?
Well, I think it's about finding that peace and ease even amidst the chaos of daily life.
So it's like you can still get things done.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's not about becoming unproductive.
Okay, good.
It's about aligning yourself with a deeper sense of purpose.
It makes sense.
And trusting that when you're in alignment, things tend to flow more smoothly.
It's like you're working with the universe instead of against it.
Exactly. And that's a beautiful thing to experience.
So, I mean, this has been a lot to process.
It has.
What would you say is the most important thing to remember about surrender?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's about remembering that it's not a sign of weakness. Yeah. It's actually a sign of great strength.
How so?
Because it takes courage to let go of control, to trust in something beyond yourself.
That's true, to admit that you don't have all the answers.
Exactly. It's about embracing the unknown, having faith in the journey, even when it feels uncertain.
I like that. Embracing the unknown. That's a good place to leave it, don't you think?
I think so. Something to reflect on.
It really is. So thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into surrender. And we hope you'll join us again next time for another deep dive into all things spirituality, transformation, and the search for meaning.
See you then.